A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation here on the AM show. And we start with our big stories with a focus on what we're expecting, anticipating ahead of November the 4th. Of course, your election headquarters. We'll be bringing you the scoop between now and that day with every teeny weeny bit of detail. How will the presidential primary of the MPP pan out? And those who are contesting, the big four, if you like, who remain. How will the voting patterns be shaped on D-Day? Well, we've got some surveys that have come out, one leaning in that direction, the other leaning in a certain extreme direction. But we'll be finding out what exactly these two camps, and of the four, we're focusing on two of the camps this morning, the Bawumia camp and the Dr. Akoto, the Dr. Bawumia camp and the Dr. Akoto camp. Well, joining us in the studio, later we'll hear from the Free Akoto camp. Joining us in the studio, Dennis Miracles Aboagye. He is member of Dr. Bawumia's campaign team. Good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing?
We're well.
Great.
Under the circumstances.
It is well.
It is well, eh?
Definitely. Why not?
Okay. All right. So, Miracles, I hope you're bringing Miracles into the studio today because I'm sure we need some of those miracles in our economic life, in many facets of our national lives. But let's start with the Bawumia campaign. Why Bawumia for you?
Well, first of all, as a member of the New Patriotic Party, the preoccupation of the party is to win every election. That's our job. That's why we exist.
Of any party?
Yes, of any party.
Of any political
exactly.
party.
And so at all times, when you have an election coming up, you would want to base your decision on what would enhance your chances of winning the elections. And in our party today, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia presents us with the brightest chance in winning the 2024 elections. So that's the first point. As a Ghanaian, I believe that based on precedents and what we've experienced in the past, we need a leader going into the future, a leader that has the capacity to protect our gains, and then one that exudes hope and gives assurance that what is left to be done would be done. And I see that in Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as well. So those are the two reasons why I am very convinced that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is the right person for us.
All right, so it's interesting how you've painted the picture. You say he stands the highest chance of, getting your party, securing electoral fortunes for your party. And then you talk about protecting gains as well. But some also say that Dr. Bawumia comes with the greatest baggage of all the four. And they would cite the likes of Kennedy Ejapong and say, look, while he may have his own demons, so to speak, in terms of leadership, he's been a member of parliament, that's it. He's never been in cabinet, he's never, been in any pole position in this country. And so you can cut him some slack. But the flack belongs to Dr. Bawumia because he was given to us as the economic wastegate. You remember the lectures? I remember one of them. Town was chock-a-block because people were coming to the National Theatre to come and listen to the person who had all the solutions to our problems, economically speaking. In fact, I remember Akufo-Addo, making mention of the fact that if you ask Nyansa, economics Nyansa, they are shit Dr. Bawumia through. But look at where we are. Look at where inflation is. Now we're even struggling to get tame inflation to the 30s in terms of percentage by close of year. In terms of the exchange rate, the pound has hovered around 15 plus, the dollar around 11 plus. Some would say it's still much lower than the 16 the dollar hit. But what has that done for business? Then you look at taxes upon taxes. The vice president, before he came in, he said would move from taxation to production. Now we still have COVID-19 levy on our books. If you read Economy Times, Guta and others are saying, look, as you prepare the 2024 budget, we want to see some tax reforms, among others. How do you respond to all of this baggage?
Well, first of all, every industry has its own rules and dynamics. And in politics, there's no politician without baggage. Every politician, you have your own swords, you have your strength, weaknesses, there are threats as well. what you do is to weigh them and see how it balances out in your favor. I mean, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia comparatively has less baggage than our competitors. I mean,
than whom?
Our competitors.
Dr. Efri Akoto?
No, than John Mahama.
Francis Adainimo?
Than John Mahama.
How so?
He's our competitor. I mean, he has been president. Dr. Bawumia has never been president.
Wait. No, let's
relax.
Let's slow down.
I mean, I listen to
vice president.
He has not been president. I mean, I'm choosing my context.
He's been vice president.
I am choosing my context. You can choose yours. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has not been president. He's vying to be president. Being a president is not the same as being a vice president. You can rate him as vice president. You can compare him as vice president. But you cannot try or attempt or pretend to try and compare a vice president to a president. They are not the same. Now, back to my point I was making. Once we are going into the election, what you are going to do is to run a SWOT of all those who are going to run the elections. And then you weigh. You are going to put the records on a weighing scale. Definitely, there are challenges. There is no leader that has a completely foolproof leadership without challenges. But the biggest difference between Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and any other person that is vying to be president in this country is that he is a leader that sincerely acknowledges and embraces the challenges and then finds ways and means to mobilize the people, providing clear pathway in getting us out of the challenges. Recently, in 2022, we had an abnormal experience in the economy. I mean, as of January last year, dollar was hovering around 5.6%, 5.6 it is thereabouts. And then between January and November, it went all the way to close to 17. Completely abnormal. It's unusual. It doesn't happen. So something might have happened.
What caused that abnormality?
Of course, it is the Russian-Ukraine war. It's a fact. And the fact,
Russia-Ukraine war.
Yes, it's a fact.
Have you considered what other countries have experienced, even here in Africa, in terms of the losses their currency? Do you realize what you're saying?
Yes,
At the point in time, our currency was the worst.
It doesn't matter. If you let me explain, I'll tell you.
So if you're, I'm not even going to compare us to countries of the West or anything. That would be an unfair comparison. Right here in Africa, other countries were facing the same perils that we were facing. They didn't get to the point
the structures aren't the same. And I'll explain to you. Which countries are you comparing us to? Give me one country. Let me run the analysis for you. Kenya.
Yes.
So let me tell you
Rwanda.
So let me tell you something. Today, all the challenges we're experiencing, Kenya is experiencing same.
Maybe at what level?
It doesn't matter.
At what level?
The structures.
No, it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
Do you remember when the vice president?
Let me
hold on. Do you remember when the vice president?
Would you let me?
I will let you land. You've raised the point.
No, but let me
elaborate. Let me also. Let me
finish.
Do you remember when the vice president spoke about the fact that in former times we couldn't have certain things flying over all countries and hitting Ghana alone? I could paint.
Let me go back and explain to you the basis, because you don't let me explain that. There's no.
Go
point.
ahead.
The chair you are seated on. Okay, when we're coming to office, we indicate clearly that the structure of the economy is challenging, and that this is an economy that is highly dependent on imports. And so we have to restructure the economy by moving us towards industrialization, production. Now, that is a process that is ongoing, is an act in progress. And so you'd realize that today, government has a deliberate program that is geared towards engineering private sector to boost our industries. Look at what is happening in the automobile sector. If not for anything at all, you can point to a deliberate program that has given close to over 100 factories that are in operation.
I don't even want to go into that conversation because
you see
if we've done the analysis
and then what happened? And then there was no factory. There's no production.
I am surprised you're even asking.
No, there's no factory. There's no production.
Are you referring to 1D1X?
Yes.
Do you know how many places we've been?
It doesn't matter how
have.
But there are.
But what kind of argument?
The argument you are making is what
kind of argument
there
are
you
making?
You see, there are.
If we've been to many factories, especially up north, watermelon, rice, and others, and we only see mice,
it doesn't matter. I am telling you that.
What are you trying to say?
I'm telling you that if we had moved from a 0 to a 50, it doesn't mean that we haven't made progress. That's what you need to hear. That's what you need to listen to. Consistently, there's attempts to try to make it look like it's non-existent. It's wrong.
But if in some instances it is non-existent,
but in some instances,
what does that point to? What picture does that paint?
There is.
And in those instances, no one has condemned it. No one has condemned it.
So what are you talking about?
No, but I think you are missing a fundamental point.
You are missing the point.
Let me tell you.
Can you let me flow? What I told you was that
you promised 100%, and you are delivering at a certain level using taxpayers' money. Are you saying we don't have the right? Wait, 1D, 1F.
Relax. What you said?
1D, 1F.
What is the task?
1D, 1F. What are you using to run?
So you see, let me make the point.
What are you using to run?
Let me make the point that we can make.
Miracles. What are you using?
Calm
to
down.
run 1D,
Calm down. Calm down. You have a country that needs to move towards industrialization. Now, a government comes in place, puts a program in place, and then the government has delivered over 100 factories. Then you claim that because you have identified that out of the 100 factories, about 20 of them are struggling, so it negates the 80 that
are not struggling, are non-existent.
Exactly. So it negates the 80 that are in existence.
I think
without the argument you're making, you are missing the point.
Okay.
You are missing the point.
So let me clarify.
But the point I am telling
Can I clarify my point? Since you are distorting things.
No, you are distorting. You are trying to distort the facts.
Okay, Miracles. You claim you are going to give, let's say, 100 factories with taxpayers' money. You deliver 50 or 70. There's a gap of 30. Are we, as citizens, do we not have the right to criticize the fact that you've used our taxpayers' money and 30 of these, maybe you've even put up an edifice that is dormant, that has become overrun with weeds, no production going on? Do we not have the right to challenge you on that?
The dishonesty is in the challenge, because when you are challenging, your job is to tell the people that it's about 120.
We've done that time without number.
If you don't let me speak.
We've done that time without number.
If you don't let me speak, we can't make progress. Because if I say every 10 seconds I interrupt with 1 minute, how do we talk?
Well, if you say something that actually has...
You let me finish, then you can come back. Because you see, right now, because of the unnecessary interjections, we moved on from where we were.
Go ahead, Miracles.
I am telling you that this government has put in place a program that is seeking to industrialize this country. And as we speak, there are factories in my municipality.
Which is where?
There are at least 3. Shoe fabric in the Cropon.
Miracles.
And then, yes, shoe fabric in the Cropon. There is Richie plantations in Akwati Akwaso, in Adoso. Now, these are factories.
Shoe fabric, please go over them again.
Shoe fabric. These are organizations.
Mention another one.
Richie plantations.
Okay.
These are organizations that in my area hitherto did not exist.
Okay.
So even not for anything at all, even if they are producing 1% of the need of that particular produce that they are making, it is an intervention. What we do is to strengthen such a program, to boost it and bring it up. But let me quickly come back to the point I was making before you distracted me. The chair you sit on. It is most likely it was imported from Turkey. Very, very most likely it was imported from Turkey. Turkey is one of the worst hit countries in terms of Russia-Ukraine war. Their inflation went all the way at some point to about 80%. Today, if you import this chair from Turkey at $100 to Ghana, and you come and sell it at $120, if you go back again and Turkey's inflation, as it were, went up to about 80%, it means that it would have moved from $100 to $180. If you bring that same chair back to Ghana, that same chair would now cost over $200. That would mean that you require a certain additional $80 to get from Ghana and send out there before you can buy the chair. So the impact of Russian-Ukraine war in our economy cannot be discounted. In as much as you try to tilt, skew, and cover it up, it cannot be discounted. So that's the fact.
How do you, thank you for making that point, which I do not see to be factual anyway.
Well, you haven't discounted which one of them is not factual?
Saying that
isn't it a fact that Turkey's inflation went all the way to 80%? Isn't it a fact that UK has affected Turkey's
so
economy?
you don't want me to intervene?
No, you said it wasn't factual, but isn't it a fact?
I'll explain to you.
Oh, explain.
Now, our inflation has gone over 50%. Within this tenure.
Yes.
In over 20 years.
Yes.
Even close to 3 decades.
Yes.
We've not seen anything like it.
Yes.
You want to make the comparison. I've heard some of you talk about the United States and the fact that they've hit 8% and the likes. They are not the same. The economies are very different. And what that may mean there is not the same as it may mean.
You see what your problem is? What your problem is that
when we go
you choose and pick what to say.
Hold on.
Here you are saying that the economies are not the same. But when I told you that the economies are not the same, you disagree.
And I interject when you are making your point.
The level of distortion is amazing.
Is it true that the Russia-Ukraine war hit every country, including Ukraine itself?
Yes.
Ukraine itself.
Yes.
And yet, even our inflation was higher than theirs.
Is it true that
the country itself that was battling? No, hold on. You asked me a question. Let me make the point. The country itself that was hit by Russia We were struggling more than that country. How does that make
Let me show you how poor your economy is. Let me show you how poor your level. Let me show you how poor your economics is.
There are other countries right here in Africa who were also hit.
Let me show you how poor your economics is.
Let me make my point. Who were also hit with all of this thing that you are saying.
Then you should have interviewed yourself.
It is my show. Anyway.
So you should have interviewed yourself. You should have interviewed
the Zambias, the Kenyas, the Rwandas, and others all went through the very same things you people are talking about.
I think that
yet you keep telling us that in some way we were so battered by the Russo-Ukrainian war that
I think that if you didn't want
it was unprecedented.
Monologue. I think if you didn't want that perspective,
well, that's why we invited you here. So that it was unprecedented. How can you even say that?
I think if you didn't want our perspective, you should have had a monologue. And
Miracles, go ahead.
Let me tell you something. Let me show you how poor your economics is. So you see, Ukraine.
Since you are the chief economist, from the stock of the economic waste, who has left us where we are.
Common sense.
I am not surprised.
If you try to compare Ukraine, the fact that they have a war, and for which reason they are inflation, the point is that Ukraine.
The fact that they have a war, they were not even able to supply grain. They were blocked.
But they're able to.
What did that do to their economy?
But if they're able to utilize the grain within their economy, they may not suffer the inflation we would suffer.
Are you aware of what it means, the blockade to Ukraine's economy? It is also common sense. It is also common sense, Miracles. That if they are not able to make the exports that runs their economy, what does that mean for them? The point you are making actually...
that is your view, so let me express my view, even if you disagree. But if you continue to interject with that, there's no interview. You need to understand that. Then you should have had a monologue. Shouldn't you? You disagree with me, but let me make my point. Because what you are saying, I disagree with you, but I let you finish.
You didn't let me finish, but you go ahead.
Can you finish and I can speak?
Go ahead.
You make a very erroneous analysis that because Ukraine has a war, their inflation should be out of the roof. And I'm telling you that a lot of the things that is affecting us as a result of the Ukraine-Russian war is because of our import dependency on them. What it means is that if they are able to utilize the things that they are producing within their country, they are not likely to suffer that kind of inflation. That is just street economics. Because we are suffering the inflation because we are not getting it at the price that we're getting it hitherto. And so once it comes back into our country, it's going to be hiked. They are producing it within the country. They are utilizing it within the country. And so you do not make that analysis. It doesn't add up. It does not add up.
I see.
If you make the analysis, it does not add up. Let me draw your attention quickly. Nothing is happening in the world. All countries are doing well. You talk about a 20-year-old inflation. UK, US, they experience a 50-year-old inflationary hike.
How about more than 20 years?
40-year-old inflationary hike. How about that? Nothing is happening. The superpowers, they experience it. You need to stop misleading the public. And sometimes...
Misleading per you?
Yeah,
per your thinking.
But you see, you created an impression as if nothing is happening. And Ghana has had 20-year high inflation.
I am telling you that nothing was happening.
I am telling you that...
At what point did I say that nothing was happening?
I am telling you that countries across the world has experienced something that has never happened in the last 120 years as a result of the global pandemic. And that is why US, Ukraine, Germany, superpower countries have suffered the consequences of this same war. And so, in as much as we, probably in our context, might have experienced this at a higher level, it does not change the fact that the impact we are suffering now is as a result of the UK-Russian war. That doesn't change it. It doesn't change it. And then you talk about it and you do not introduce any...
So let me ask you, if I may. Okay. Can I come in now?
Sure, you can.
Okay, all right. What percentage of what we are facing will you attribute to the Russo-Ukrainian war? Especially when, all the way from around 2019, the writing was on the wall. Economists, CSO started talking to you about your borrowing. Global outfits started warning you about your borrowing. Excessive borrowing. Today we are talking about the fact that Fitch is telling us by close of year, where is that paper? I think I have to look. Yes. By close of year, our debt to GDP will be 99%. What happened?
So let me tell you again.
What happened around that time when they were pointing to all of these things?
Again.
So
are you aware?
What amount of the blame we attribute to Russia?
Are you aware that about 40% of our debt is as a result of exchange rate differentials? 40%, 40%. And you know why? Because our debt is largely in dollar. And so if you had the kind of impact that you've had, if you have your exchange rate moving from 5 cedis all the way to about 16, now to about 11 cedis, doubling, then you should expect what you are saying. What it means is that it is not the borrowing that has brought us here. It is the same impact. The same impact, because 40% of our debt is as a result of exchange rate differentials. And so once you are able to agree on the exchange rate differential component, then you understand why, even though we borrowed, we would not have been here but for that same challenge. But for that same challenge, why don't you tell your viewers that? Why don't you talk about that?
Before Russia and Ukraine hit, and then if you look at currently at our debt stock, what has been added onto it? More than all the administrations.
I've just given you this
since independence.
I've just told you that 40% of that same debt.
Put together.
40% of that same debt.
40%. How does that add up for you?
I've just told you that 40% of that debt is not money we borrow.
Our debt is around 600 billion.
40% of that debt is not money.
You added about 450 billion.
40%, about half of that money is not money we borrow.
So let's do this. Let's do the math.
About half of that money is not money we borrow.
Let's say almost 500 billion, but let's say about 450 billion. Okay? Let's do the math. So 40. Here we go. So let's even take out the 180 billion from it. You're still left with 270 billion,
awesome,
which is still more than many administrations. In fact, probably all administrations, if I'm looking at this figure, put together in this Fourth Republic.
How many? Because we have built more. We have
in this Fourth Republic.
Yes. We have provided more infrastructure in senior high school than all administrations. We have provided more support to private sector to go into industrialization than all administrations. We have invested more in health infrastructure than all administration. We have invested more in road infrastructure than all administrations. That justifies it.
I see. So when you look at education, you've been touting. You've been touting.
You've done better.
You've done better, but to what quotient that will justify this?
Are you aware that
are you aware of the problems with free SHS?
Yes.
Are you aware of the problems?
Yes, and those problems existed, and now
sometimes you're not even able to feed the kids.
Are you aware that when we rolled out free senior high school, enrollment doubled? Are you aware? And as a result of that, and as a result of that, the children could not even find places to sleep. Are you aware that? Numbers? Of course, why not?
You're looking merely at numbers.
Access is number one. Access is number one.
How about quality?
Access is first.
How about quality?
Access is first. Quality reflects in the results. Have you seen their results? Quality reflects in the performance. Have you seen the results? How are you measuring it?
Are you looking at? Are you also considering the teacher to student ratios? You see, the percentages in terms of time. I'm referring to the same thing. I'm talking about quality. I'm talking about quality. And you're referring to when you give students past questions to go and prepare for exams, and that is it. That's good for you.
You didn't have past questions.
Let me tell you.
Hasn't past questions been part of exams?
Do you even know when I left secondary school?
Past questions.
Anyway.
Hasn't past questions always been part of exam preparations? You can't answer that.
Here's what I'll tell you.
You cannot answer that one. Past questions.
If the students...
Which exams candidate prepares without past questions?
Miracles. If the students are not getting the right time hours, and you provide them with past questions at the last minute, and they pass through that. Let me tell you where it is exposed.
You are one of Ghana's
Let me tell you where
you are one of Ghana's problems.
You are one of Ghana's solutions, right?
You are
one of Ghana's solutions,
right? To espouse such things on TV. Let me tell you something.
You made a point. You will not continue talking.
Finish and I'll come.
My colleagues who lecture in the universities, do you know what they tell me?
What do they tell you?
A lot of these students, and I must just fall short of mentioning names, across the board, a lot of these students come, they can't even manage the English for teaching. They need to be taught for about a month English.
You guys,
so when we refer to quality, and you keep referencing quantity and
your agenda is so poor that it's not even funny anymore. Go and finish and I'll come in.
Okay. As you keep interjection, when I interject, okay. Don't cry because you are making.
You've been interjecting from scratch, so is that a problem?
In terms of the enrollments, they may have gone up, but the resources to contain these enrollments. Why did you have to run the double track and all of those systems? Because you don't have the space for them. There have been complaints about sleeping accommodation. We have done so many stories, unless you've been oblivious to them. Feeding has been problematic. And you are sitting here telling me that, once the numbers are ballooned and for some, whatever period they are passing, that nullifies everything.
So,
how can you even think? How can you even think in that way?
Clouded with the opinion.
Since you are not clouded, please explain to me.
See, let me tell you something. The issue of performance first. The only way, it's not your view. The only way you can measure the performance.
But it's your view.
No, the only way you can measure the performance of a student is his results in the examination, and the results are an all-time best in the last 10 to 15 years. So when you talk about performance, you just don't know what you're talking about because the results are there. We're not going to measure the output or the performance or the quality of the student's education based on your sentiments and your views.
My sentiments?
Yes, it's going to be based on...
Have you looked at the breakdowns when it comes to English, the core subject?
Yes, it is better. Have you taken a look at them? Open it now.
Have you seen the performances in some years versus other years?
It is better. Open it now. It is better. Open it now. Share it. Let your producer share it now.
As though we didn't talk about these.
It is better. It is better. Share it. It's improved. Share it.
Go ahead.
Secondly, you talk about numbers. When we rolled out free SHS, you'd realize that because the numbers were so huge, the government realized that we have two options. Either we leave the 100,000 children continuously that we live on the street to be on the street, or we take advantage of the gap that we have during their vacation and get all other children enrolled. So maybe you do not understand double track, but double track basically means that the period within which the classrooms are empty, the period within which the other students are on vacation, let another batch to come to school and come and study. Today, a lot of the schools, over 80% of the schools, have phased out from double track. Why? Because the 240 million about that you mentioned has been utilized to provide infrastructure for these schools. There is no secondary school. Can you let me finish?
Oh, I thought you were ending. Go ahead then.
And there is no secondary school in this country that hasn't received an intervention one way or the other in terms of infrastructure from the government to ensure that the numbers that they are getting will have places to sleep, classes to study in, and then dining halls to eat in. That is how you solve problems. You don't solve problems by preventing other citizens in having access to what is basic to everybody.
Are you done
That
now?
Is how you solve problems.
Are you done now?
Yes.
Two quick things. The proportion of free SHS in terms of what we've been spending on it, the 1-point-something billion every now and then, versus the gargantuan debt we are facing, it's just a drop in the bucket.
It doesn't matter. So
Can we use... No, will you allow me? You are the one who always want to be allowed to speak. Relax. It's a drop in the bucket compared to the overall cost. Why should we even be having a discussion on this? Because its contribution to the entire debt is minuscule. Then again, we've gone to the IMF. We've gone to the IMF because supposedly we are broke. We don't have the wherewithal. We're a proud nation and all of that. We've still gone to the IMF. You look at the IMF and what it has said to us about free education. I'm sure you followed. The World Bank. They've told us that we have challenges in there. We ought to streamline, just for lack of having the exact wording, so I don't want to. We have to streamline free SHS in terms of beneficiaries. Yet we are still going down the same road. Why?
You see,
so two questions, please. I asked you two questions. The component of free SHS spending in terms of the debt, and what even the IMF has said.
I spoke about agriculture. I spoke about health. I spoke about the broad infrastructure, roads and what have you. Free SHS was one of the things I mentioned.
Well, we've had a conversation.
Let's
focus on that.
When you have the time, you can compute. So you can, if you tell me it's just a drop, you haven't said anything. 270 billion
we've not spent up to about... No, if you want to go down that road, we've not spent even over 20 billion on free SHS.
You make life so difficult.
You say it's a drop, and I'm giving you the figure. So now break it down for us.
I'm telling you that 270 billion has been invested in several sectors, which I mentioned.
True.
You decided to pick on free SHS for us to discuss.
We've been talking about it.
Yeah, but you decided for us to discuss that, and we've gone through that. So when you come back and say it, so what are you asking me to tell you now? What are you asking me to tell you? You
are touting it as
it not
this thing.
Do you know how many children
which justifies part of the 270 billion? And I'm just trying to tell you that it's only a drop in the bucket.
But there are others. So go and pick the others and project all of them. Then you can have that conversation.
Right.
What are you asking me to tell you now?
Right.
Is it not the fact that over 100,000 children that were being left on the street every year are now in the classroom? And so if you say, oh, you borrowed, what did you use it for? Roads, health, agric, industry, education, and then you say free SHS is just small, go and pick the others and run all of them. Then you can have a complete conversation.
I'll come to the economy.
That's notwithstanding. Let's establish one fact today.
Right.
The fact that Free Senior High School has brought close to 100,000 children who are left on the street consistently every year to the classroom. Free Senior High School has provided the needed infrastructure for most of the senior high schools to be able to hold the children, and it continues to provide this infrastructure. Free Senior High School is ensuring that children will have the needed quality education that they desire, and it's reflecting in the results. The Free Senior High School students, most of them who are in third year or thereabouts in the university, have churned out one of the best performing results that this country has seen in the last 10 or 15 years. And we cannot, under any circumstance, discount it. You may not be so happy it's doing well, but I'm sorry, that's your loss.
I may not be so happy it's doing well.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, for someone who is in the studio for us to talk about the merits of a campaign and everything, I find it surprising you would say that, but I'll leave you to your opinion.
Yeah, but that's your loss.
They are like noses. Everybody has one. I want us to look at the economy.
Okay.
You've been talking about Dr. Bawumia and the economic management team that he heads. But before we get into that, let me just cross over to my colleague Samuel Mbura. He's standing by. He is with the Bawumia camp, and he has some juicy tidbits for us ahead of November the 4th. Samuel Mbura, if you can hear me, please go ahead.
Yeah, Benjamin, good morning. We are reaching you live from the Jubilee Park here in Aboagye, the Upper East Regional Capital. Today, the Vice President is firming up and actually concluding his campaign ahead of the November 4 Congress. Yesterday, he was in his home region, the Northeast region, and had a rousing welcome. We had all the delegates there, confirming and then throwing their full support behind him. He had big wigs also following his campaign team. The Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Chairman Wontumi, was there. The Northern MPP caucus also declared their full support for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So we know this is a critical or the pivotal part of the elections. So they have, or this is the last minute, they have to convince these delegates to give them their votes among the four. So we know that Bawumia has already been tipped as a forerunner for the elections. There are, projections that he's likely to win over 80%. Regardless of that, he's still touching base with the electorates here. Here in the Upper East region, they have over 8,000 delegates that will be casting their ballots. I'm fortunate to have with me the regional chairman of the NPP. He's called lawyer Anthony Namo, for us to have the conversation. But right behind me, you can see that they are preparing for him to come. In the next 2 hours, this rally will begin. Thank you very much for joining us, Chairman, on Joy News Channel. What do you make of the preparation so far ahead of the November 4 Congress?
Thank you very much. Preparation has been ongoing for weeks now for today's event. And of course, for November, the election committee has also been preparing very hard. And as we speak now, we all know the venues where the elections will take place. We have 15 venues in the region, and all of them have been communicated to the constituencies, and they all know their venue. But of course, for today's program, it's for His Excellency, the Vice President, to canvass his campaign tour. Already he has toured 261 constituencies in the country, and he says that he's going to do the canvass in Upper East region. We are honored to be hosting him because to provide.
How critical is it for him to come and hold the final rally here? This is a region, 15 constituencies. You have only one seat. What does that mean to you?
Yes, thank you. One seat is also important if you know what is happening in Parliament now. So one seat used not to be seen as anything, but is very critical. And I'm sure his coming and subsequent coming would also help us to prop us so that we can get more seats. So the 2024 December 7th election is a process, and of course this will be one of them. And so
you are a lawyer, and I know you love to always protect your integrity. There are allegations flying out there that you the chairman, were given some amounts and given pickups as well. Clarify, did you receive your share? Maybe I can get mine after here.
I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that there was no such an amount given to anybody here. And as a matter of fact, as far as Vice President was concerned, he never sent any money to this region to give to anybody. So I'm surprised. And Vice President himself has debunked that allegation in the northern region. And the chairman of constituency chairman across the country also issued a statement debunking whatever allegation was put out there. People were giving 100,000 and pickups. So it's unfortunate that in an internal contest such as ours, people will not look at the issues.
Is it the fact that you, the chairman, are suppressing some of the aspirants from reaching out to the delegates and then rather working towards favoring the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia?
That is unfortunate. If you look at when Kennedy came, he had his rally here for about 3 constituencies. My executives who were available were all here with him. So we communicated even to our constituencies that Kennedy was coming because he duly notified us that he was coming. But of course, if a candidate is coming and he hasn't notified us, we will not be able to inform the people to come.
All right, so let me put you on the spot on this. Yes. When I was in Northeast region, yes, I was in Northern region. All these regions, I've been communicated to that all the 5 Northern regions have declared for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Is that the situation in Upper East region?
If you look at the party, we delegates only represent a larger body. And so if you live in a polling station and your members of the party in the polling station who are running into hundreds tell you that this is the direction we want you to go. So delegates are instructed that this is the way you should go. And so as far as I'm concerned, it is the polling station members at the video who have told their 5 members that this is where we want our votes to go. So it is not an instruction from coming from our.
What percentage are you projecting from your region? Are you giving him 100%?
Well, what I can tell you that when we got 86%, our party members and the polling station executive were highly disappointed that we got 86% in the superdelegates, and therefore they are telling everybody, including themselves, that they are looking towards 100%.
Do you think the aspirants who have come to your region have conducted themselves so well?
Yes, so far, I cannot all the aspirants who came, they conducted themselves very well. Kennedy was here, and even though he mentioned the term showdown, when he came here, it was very civil engagements. Even the Boku zone, he appealed for peace and calm, and that was, and we're happy that he has come to the zone where there's conflict, and he managed to also call for peace so that we can have development. That is the kind of message that. So as far as Upper East is concerned, when Kennedy came, he did his part. His message he wasn't, apart from the allegation of 100,000, and I'm sure most of our delegates here knew that wasn't. It was far from the truth. But we didn't want to confront him like it happened in that area. We just took it on the light, and a statement was issued.
Is everything set for your region for the elections on Saturday?
Yes, sure. Everything is set because the election material, I'm sure they will communicate to us. We are not handling it. It's the Electoral Commission handling it. And as soon as they arrive in the region, I'm sure we'll be informed. And how they will distribute to the constituency will also be informed about them. Okay,
so Benjamin, that's the Upper East Regional Chairman of the MPP, lawyer Anthony Namo. He's serving his 2 years as chairman of the party. He's a lawyer per his background as well. You heard him talking about what they intend to deliver for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in the November 4 Congress. They have over 8,000 delegates.
104 delegates. 8,104 delegates.
So that's 8,104. The youth play a critical role, and I have Salahuddin. He is the regional youth organizer of the NPP in the Upper East region. Salahuddin, how is the youth prepared for this Congress?
Good morning, Samuel, and good morning to listeners of Joy News. I must say that the youth are well prepared. For the past week, we've been here engaging them from constituency to constituency, engaging the youth in all the constituencies. I can say for sure that all of them are rooting for the Vice President. We are not forcing them. We have engaged them, and they have given us their thinking that to them, they are seeing that this is the time for the Vice President. This is the time for Mahmoud Bawumia to take leadership of the party because they believe in him, and they know that with him, we can break the aid with him.
Yes. Are you doing this because he is a Northerner? You are doing that because he's your brother? Or you are doing this on the grounds that he is competent to lead the party, subsequently becoming the president of the country?
Well, we are not doing it because he's a Northerner or he's a brother. One thing that must be stated without any equivocation is that this is the first ever vice president who has played critical role in national policies. We can talk of paperless port. We can talk of mobile interoperability. We can talk of the Ghana card. A lot of policies that this man has led as vice president. Ask yourself, he is just number 2 doing all these things. If he gets the chance to lead the party and lead this country, what do you think he can do? He will do far more than he's doing as vice president. So we believe in him. He's very competent. He's very humble. He can do the job as a president, not because he's an ordinary.
All right, Salahuddin, thank you very much. We are grateful. I know Benjamin, time is not by our side, but there's a situation here in Bogatanga, the Upper East Regional Capital. We have 15 constituencies, but the MPP occupies only one seat. That is the Binduri seat. The rest have been occupied by the NDC. That reduction in number was witnessed in the 2020 election. Initially, they were having about 4 seats, but reduced to 1 there. So that is it. All is set for the vice president to come and address the people of the Upper East region. So far as concluding and firming up his campaign tour is concerned. But you heard from the chairman, you heard from the youth organizer. They are all rooting for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, not because he is a tribesman, but because he's competent. So if you don't have further questions, I will hand it over back to you, Benjamin, in Accra.
Thank you very much, Samuel Mbura, for bringing us the scoop ahead of that locking of horns on November the 4th. And we'll be getting a bit into the surveys that have been conducted as of now. But I have some messages coming through. Miracles, some of them I cannot read because but let me take this one. Engineer Mahama sends in this one. He says, Côte d'Ivoire is doing under 10% inflation. That's our next door neighbor. What is happening to the Ekumfi factory after 7 years? Is the sugarcane not maturing yet, or has it not matured yet? What has happened to Saglemi and the abandoned houses? Using money halfway and abandoning projects recklessly. We read in our JHS Agri books way back in 1995 that the lack of combined harvesters was our bane in rice production, and it's still relevant today. We still don't have it yet. Miracle is saying 40% of our debt is as a result of the city's depreciation. Do you have any answers to this before we move on with the conversation?
Have you asked how much Côte d'Ivoire inflation was in 2018, 2019? It was under 1%.
So they've gone to
I'm just trying
less than 10%.
Yes, but you see...
What was our inflation in 2018, 2019 and
comparative?
comparative?
The thing, no, and I start talking all the interject, then the thing make basa, then you come and...
What they're trying to say.
Let me speak here.
Check like right now, your face make this thing for us.
Yeah, because...
You go ahead.
It's because of the way you started the interview. It tells the whole thing. Let me flow.
Go ahead.
You are saying that Côte d'Ivoire is 10% or 9%.
Under.
Yes,
10%.
and your assertion is because we are at 40%. And I'm telling you that if you want to compare countries in terms of inflation, that's not how you do the comparison. You don't look at the nominal figures, you look at the rates. I'm saying Côte d'Ivoire, 2018 was about 0.62% from Statista. Here it is.
Okay.
0.62%. So if you want to really compare, then go and ask yourself how much was Ghana's inflation in the same 2019 and how much it is now. Then you can really understand the variance. But if you say Ghana is at 38...
Make the comparative.
No, I can't.
I
can't do those computations now. But I'm just trying to draw your attention that it's a poor way of running companies.
But you don't have the figures yet.
No, but I have. I'm telling you that...
I'm saying do the comparative with Ghana's inflation.
I'm telling you that, listen, Côte d'Ivoire's inflation, where you say is 9%.
How can you make the comparative when you're looking at only one side? Make the comparison with Ghana. That's the comparative.
The point I'm making is this. If you want to compare countries in terms of inflation, you don't go pick Côte d'Ivoire. So, okay, then America's inflation is 6%. Côte d'Ivoire is 9%. You really think the economies are the same?
We moved from single-digit inflation.
Don't change the point.
To 54%.
Let's finish this conversation.
54%.
Let's finish this point I'm making. Don't detour. America.
I brought it up the first
America's
time.
inflation is at 6%. Côte d'Ivoire is at 9%. Do you really think that the economies are the same?
But of course, the economies are different.
Exactly.
There are different scales.
So exactly. So that's the point I'm making. So I'm saying that is a poor way of running the comparison.
So you're saying
between countries.
You're saying that the mere fact that because there are these disparities, and it is common, it is trite knowledge, because every economy is different anyway.
The mere fact that the mere fact that Ivory Coast inflation is at 9%, Ghana's inflation is at 38%. It doesn't mean that necessarily Ivory Coast is doing way better than Ghana. Ivory Coast has seen its own share of economic crisis because they used to be under 1% and they are at 9%. That is the principle. That's the principle.
Let me even forget. Okay, you go ahead. Go.
You want to take the conversation?
I want to make a point about Togo, but
next time you should do a monologue.
Even Togo, right?
You keep jumping.
Next door neighbor.
But the principle is the same.
The principle is the same. Have you been to any of these countries?
Yes, I have.
Which ones?
Ivory Coast, about a month ago. The principle is the same.
What's the cost of living there? How do you find it? Fuel and everything.
How are you measuring it? How are you measuring it? How are you measuring it?
How would you measure? How do you measure cost of living from one country to another country? How would you measure that?
So the point here is that I'm saying that the principle is simple. You do not run companies' comparison inflation on nominal figures. Look at their rate. They used to be they were about 0.62%. They are 9%. Ask yourself why. What's happening to them? How come? Because if you look at the figures, 2004 all the way to 2019, they were under 1%. Then all of a sudden, from 2020 to now, they've shot up.
And we moved from single digits to 54%.
So it tells you that something is happening in the global economy.
The same thing happened to them.
But you see, you're not following. You see, and again, that is the problem. The problem is that you deliberately try to ignore what is going on.
How am I ignoring when I'm saying that the very things that happened to us happened to them?
So you expected,
and this is how they weathered the storm. And this is where we ended.
The time they were at 0.62%, our inflation was around 17%. The time that they were 2016 when they are 0.65.
If you look at the trajectory from 2017, hold on. From 2017 to around 2020. Where was our inflation? I won't
let you digress.
Where was our inflation?
I won't let you digress again.
Compared to that. No, where was our inflation?
I won't let you digress. I won't let you digress again. In 2016, when our inflation was at 17%, Ivory Coast was under 1%.
But you took over and
I am telling you, I am only telling you that I'm trying to use your own argument.
Why are you using 2016, by the way?
Because it tells you that is how the economies are structured. That Ghana, when we are 17%, Ivory Coast was.
Let's talk about when you took over from 2017. What was the inflation?
And what is the inflation of Ivory Coast that you are comparing?
What was the inflation?
What is the?
You made mention of it.
But I've told you 17%. And
we are talking about Ivory Coast compared to ours.
It was 0.56%, and we were 17%.
But we've gone into the 10.
But they've gone to 9%.
No, we've gone into single digits.
And they have gone to 9% from 0.56.
And we shot up to 54%.
Calculate the percentage of rate increase. Then you understand. That's how you calculate.
There's something you are not answering.
What am I not answering?
You say you went to the Ivory Coast. I'm asking you, comparatively, cost of living. You can. I've been to other countries within the sub-region. In fact, very soon I'll be in another such country.
I cannot
and I'm saying
that's your question.
When you go
there is no basis.
I'll tell you my experience.
There is no basis for that comparison.
I'll tell you my experience.
I don't have a basis for that. I don't have a basis.
For example,
I don't have a basis.
The disparity is yawning. Cost of food, cost of fuel, cost of so many things.
In this country, everybody knows that in this country, even our traders have been going to Togo to go and bring less costly.
But you are making comparisons. Why not Togo?
No, you see, Togo.
Why not
Togo? Mm-hmm. If you go to Okaishi, they will tell you that our parents have been going to Togo to go and buy things from there as a result of their free port since time memorial to now. So why are you trying to make it look like? Why are you trying to make it look like it's now that Togo is less expensive than Ghana?
There's no comparative to be made.
You are trying to.
No, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
There's no comparative to be made.
There's no basis.
But you started the comparison talking about the sub-region.
You asked the question.
You are talking about the sub-region. Togo is in our sub-region.
Because you see, you don't listen. I am telling you that even Togo has been hit. Ivory Coast has been hit. And that was when I have given you the figures.
The numbers are still far better than ours. So just because of a free port.
Oh my God.
Just because of a free port. The situation must be way better than ours.
Misleading your now, so high. Now, you don't let me speak.
Well, that is your opinion.
I am telling you that Ivory Coast, if you want to test whether the Ivory Coast economy has been hit by the global economy, you don't come and say that because Ghana is 38 and Ivory Coast is 90, they are fine.
Well,
you go, let me finish.
You've lived there and you still can't give me a comparative when it comes to the cost of living.
Check.
So I think we'll leave
you go and check where Ivory Coast was before now, and then you will realize that indeed the economy has been impacted. In 2016, their inflation was about 0.56%. Today, you tell me their inflation is about 9%. It tells you how much hit they have received as a result of the global impact, and you want to pretend that doesn't exist.
So our hits had to take us all the way to 54.
The time they were at 0.56%, we were 70%.
I guess for you,
the time they were under 0.56%, we were 70%.
Those of you watching, I'm hoping that justifies where we are.
They know the fact. You are skewing it.
Let me ask you this: as head of the economic management team, the whiz kid, the economic whiz kid. The vice president, some would say, has performed abysmally. How do you respond to that?
He hasn't.
He hasn't?
It would have been worse.
I still remember the bit about the solid economic management team.
It would have been worse.
The solid team has left us where we are.
Ask me then, give your own commentary. Run a monologue. You don't have to bring me here if you do this. You ask me a question, I am answering.
I thought you would be using the time to respond, though.
But you're not giving me the time.
Well, you are spending that time.
No, carry on. Then close the program.
Respond to it.
Then close the program.
Economic management team.
Let me speak.
Please tell us about the economic wisdom.
I am telling you that it would have been worse.
It would have. I see.
Don't unnecessarily interject. Let me speak. It would have been worse.
It would have. This is my show, mind you, and it would have. Saying it would have is not an interjection. Please go ahead.
I have nothing more to add.
Well, let's talk about the 800 million as well that another opponent, Kennedy Ejapong, is talking about, that your side wanted to use to influence him. Do you have any response to that?
It's completely false. It's unfounded. It's baseless. The Vice President has been very busy on the road, running the campaign and speaking with the delegates, those who are going to vote, under no time, or at no time as a Vice President even thought of engaging any of the candidates to step down in this contest. There's a yawning gap between the Vice President and even the next second place candidate. And we have no reason to ask anybody to step down, let alone offer $800 million. I don't even think Ghana has $800 million seated anywhere right now.
Which is why some of us found that very interesting. But
so straight away you should know that it's completely out of place.
But the interesting thing is that this is not the first time Kennedy Ejapong is saying this. You know that?
Yeah.
He's kept repeating that. Now, what we find interesting is the fact that Kennedy Ejapong has proven himself in the last, the superdelegates election to be a force within the MPP, whether surprising or not. Don't you find it interesting that someone in such a position levels such an accusation against what the surveys have revealed is the person in pole position?
So far,
at least for the fact that he is saying that, what signal does that
So far,
send?
it's completely false that Kennedy Ejapong has shown that he's a force to reckon with. There was about 900 votes in the last election. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who was first, got over 600. The second place person, which was Kennedy Ejapong, got barely 120
Did you expect Ken to get that much?
Well, we don't care about what somebody's getting.
You didn't, so he's become a force.
So that is in your view, because if I go into an election of 900 votes and I get 600, and you call the second place person who barely made 100 a force, that's a poor assertion, but that's your opinion.
I see.
You understand?
This time we're looking at a pool of over 200,000.
It would even be worse. It would be worse. The gap between Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the second place person would even be worse on Saturday. And I can assure you that. And we said this, and I remember I was here before the August 26th, and I said it here, that he was going to do nothing less than a 70%. On Saturday, November 4th, the Vice President would not do anything less than a 70%. So I don't know where this whole perception of force to reckon with has come. He is not reckoning with us. The second place person is reckoning with the third and fourth place. But it's not with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia under any measure. And so that assertion cannot be substantiated. Again, with respect to this whole step down conversation, let's put it on record. And yesterday we issued a statement to that effect. The Vice President is very much interested in getting a contest on Saturday, because this factless point that you make should be established.
Which factless point?
That other candidates are forced to be reckoned with. It should be established. And the only way
it appears the only way you acknowledge the facts are the opinions that you subscribe.
But why? What supports the fact that you believe that somebody is forced to be reckoned with?
Global Info Analytics, for example, have you seen their research?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen it.
What does it tell you?
But they gave a survey before August 26th. Have you gone to check and ask them why they are surveyed? And their survey didn't pass. It didn't pass. So why should I? I predicted 70%.
What did not pass?
I predicted 70% for August 26th. Vice President got 69. Check what they predicted and check how much Vice President got.
Oh, so you are not giving any credence to them?
No, because they have so far their predictions didn't come to pass. Ours rather passed. So between us and any other survey, we will pay attention to ours. What we take from surveys usually is a commentary. The feedback. What are the people saying? Those are the things we take seriously. And then we'll find ways and means to work within them and make sure that we are amending ourselves and improving in other areas. But in terms of Vice President, I hear they even said the Vice President will do under 50%. We'll get to about 43%. It's all just predictions, like Agenda 1.
Do you subscribe to the Center for Sustainable African Development Initiative report? They say the vice president will get about 80.8%. Do you subscribe to that one?
I know that the vice president will do nothing less than 70%.
Nothing less than 70%.
Yes, that I know. Nothing less than 70%.
They're playing it safe.
No, that's the best way to go about service.
But even if you look
human beings are not like
if you look at the primary, the super delegates, and what he got, it would make sense to play around that figure. Because
but we predicted
obviously
that.
over 20% going to Kennedy Japan and the rest, sharing the spoils. But some have said that with the number 200,000, you're looking at about 1% versus 100%. The about 2,000 that voted for the super delegates are now over 200,000. And it's been said that is where really we'll be able to separate the boys from the men. But people have also spoken. Today I even saw Dr. Efri Akoto has spoken about, he calls it manipulation and favoritism. Adainimo has spoken about it. Boakye Jako has spoken about it. Alachem, I think, even on the back of that, decided to go and form his movement.
It's an election. It's an election. We are
and we've heard the Ashanti regional chairman of your party even going to the extent of saying that he, together with other chairmen, chiefs, and others, will sponsor feeding and other things on the day of the primary in the name of Dr. Bawumia. Let me just ask you this. The question is, do you find this to be fair? Is it not the manipulation that some other candidates are speaking of?
I mean, it's an election, and it's an internal election that has delegates. In elections, lobbying and influence is very important, including whipping. And that's why even when you go to parliament, whipping is formalized.
This is outside of parliament.
No, I am from Ikiapim North. I have been MC in Ikiapim North. I support Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. From here, I'm going to Ikiapim North. I'm going to call the delegates and tell them that I support the vice president. If you like me, come with me and let's vote for the vice president. And we are asking a lot more party people, party leaders to do that. It is up to you, the other contender, to find ways and means to get a lot more party leaders to be with you. In this party, when we are going for the internal election, we all have one vote, including the president.
So why don't you go with your vote and your conscience to vote for him?
So who is going to campaign for who? Who is going to campaign for who? You need to set up a campaign team. You need to bring people to campaign for you. Who is going to campaign for you? Who is going to campaign for you? Your job, in fact, your first test is how will you be able to convince people to buy into your ideas and get them to advocate for you. There is no crime in getting people to support your cause. There is no crime in getting people to advocate for you, and that's exactly what we are doing. Even this morning, we are still talking to a lot more influential people within the party. That is our job as a campaign team. Why do you think we've been put together? Our job is to come together, identify people who can work on people, and get people. There are people that we go to their girlfriends, we go to their wives, we go to their husbands to get them to talk to their partners to vote for us. That is what politics is about.
The MPP is seeking to break the 8. Some are saying that with the push for Dr. Bawumia, whom they call the establishment candidate, you'll win the battle, but you can't win the war. How do you react?
We are going to win the war to your amazement and to your shock. As a matter of fact, on probably 8th December, midnight, about, you will be declaring here for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. You see, on two grounds. The people of Ghana have learned from what happened between 2000 and 2008. When President Kufuor took over this country, we were on our knees. He moved this country so well that by the time he was leaving office, Ghana was called the gateway to Africa. We were touted as the golden age of business. Banks were coming to our homes and asking us to come for loans and do business. In the year 2008, the elections year, President Kufuor encountered two challenges. Challenge number one, fuel price shortage and hikes. Challenge number two, water shortages. You remember the Kufuor yellow gallon, where in the morning you see people move up and down with yellow gallons looking for water. When we got into the election period, the NDC plus their collaborators decided to spin as a result of those two challenges and said, oh, Ghana is hard, Ghana is difficult, like you're doing this morning. Ghana is hard, Ghana is difficult, Ghana is this, Ghana is that.
Maybe Ghana is good for you, it's not.
And then they started running around with Kufuor and his people have stolen all the gold from Bank of Ghana. They have stolen money. This is their NIB account, their GCB account. And then the people of Ghana had no choice. As a result of some of the things that you are doing here, they had no choice, and then they voted for the NDC. Fast forward, when the NDC came to power, and they were being vetted, a lot of them said that most of the things they said were lies. And I'm very, very sure a lot of the things that you say here, eventually, God forbid, if MPP is not in power, NDC is here, you would come and admit that, in fact, a lot of them were not factual. We have gone down that
I take
lane
serious
before.
exception to what
Oh,
you're
of
saying,
course,
that
but a lot of them are
what
not
you say.
factual.
We operate with data.
We
operate with what the facts and figures
I've
are.
challenged you.
Which ones have you challenged?
So
which ones have you challenged?
So you
do not
realize
make-
that?
No.
So
I will not
what do
allow
want me
you to
do?
go on. Do not come and sit here and say that we do not operate with what.
I haven't. I said a lot
what
of
is
them.
not
So it means that
fact.
some of them are, but a lot of them
well,
are.
a lot of what you have said here is not factual.
So be it.
don't come and
So be
say
it.
that
So eventually,
what
like
we
it
use here is
happened,
not
like it
data.
happened in
We operate based
2009.
on data. Go
Like
on.
it happened in 2009. A lot of you will come and admit that some of the things you said, but God forbid, the people of Ghana have learned from that, and they have realized that when eventually we left forward to the NDC, the results were what we experienced in 2016, where places like multimedia had to even lay off workers because your operational costs were so high. You were running on genset.
It is you who
some
say
media
that.
houses,
It is
some
you who
media
say that.
houses were.
My lights were off yesterday. My lights were off. Do you know how many times the light has been going off in different?
We would have wished it was.
You probably have power outages, but you will not speak.
We would
of
have wished it was like this in 2016. We would have wished it was like this in 2016.
Miracles.
Then, you let me finish.
Joy, please wrap the
You're not
conversation.
happy.
Please go. Please wrap.
You're not happy.
Please wrap.
So based on all of
No, we actually have to go to.
So
listen
based
to
on
the other side.
all of these things, the people of Ghana are clear in their minds that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia must be given the opportunity to ring fence and protect the little gains we have made.
I see.
The few factories that are operational.
Okay.
The hospitals that we are putting up.
All right.
The children that are in schools. The infrastructure we are providing for these schools. The effort we are making in health, agric. These gains must be protected whilst we pursue the outstanding things like the macroeconomic indicators that are not looking too good.
Okay.
Once we pursue them, we have to make sure that those gains are protected.
Thank
That
you.
is the reason why
Thank you, Miracles.
on the 8th of December, you would be here declaring for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia against your wishes.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis Miracles Aboagye, for joining the conversation
Thank you
this
for having
morning.
me.
He's a member of the Dr. Bawumia campaign.
I'll be
team.
back.
And he's an MC, former, are you still?
I was a former MC.
Okay, former MC. He says he's campaigning for Bawumia and he will whip his people in line.
Absolutely.
But we'll see what happens on November the 4th. That is where the cookie will crumble. The comments are so many, but Abigail Owusu says, you will win the internal, but lose the main elections. Well, this has been the interaction from the Dr. Bawumia end of things. But how about Dr. Efriye Akoto? He's also in the fray. Now, we told you we were looking at two of them. Here's a conversation with the former Agric Minister, together with my own colleague, Elton John Brobe.